Good afternoon, all. Since we are in pandemic situation, it is just a few minutes video about our department to introduce you all. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Mrs. M. Malati. She is qualified in Masters of Analytical Chemistry from University of Madras, serving in India Piston Rings as a senior manager in research and development activities, and 22 years experience in the field of centrifugal casting, heat treatment, failure analysis, and surface engineering. She is currently pursuing her PhD degree at Crescent Engineering College. She has published 5 research papers in the field of surface engineering. It's my honor to welcome you, ma'am, and to introduce you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It's now your time to start our session.
Thank you, Vadivel sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear us, ma'am.
Yeah. Once again, I thank the HOD, Dr. Bala sir, for calling me as a guest lecturer. Today, I am here to share my knowledge. It's a sharing session. What I have learned, I have just made in the form of a small presentation, and I want to share how industry is making use of mechanical testing. Um, yeah. So today it is about mechanical testing. I think everybody in the colleges are very much aware of what are the mechanical testing. Once mechanical testing, the word mechanical testing, first thing comes to the mind is the hardness simple test. The hardness is one of the simple tests, and next comes the tensile and impact and other mechanical testings. Apart from that, we have certain other tailor-made testings which are made to the product requirement. First, why at all we need this? Vadivel sir, can you see the participants? Can you see the video? I mean the slides. Hello.
No. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Are you able to see the
No,
slides?
ma'am. No, ma'am. No. Yes.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Now is it now? Yeah.
Visible.
So these
Yes,
are
ma'am. It is
contents
visible.
which I'll be touching upon. One is why at all in industry we need mechanical test. See, it is very difficult without this mechanical test to conclude certain things in the industries, which I'll be sharing in the form of some case studies. See, mechanical test, when you see the basic hardness, one of the basic test is the fundamental test is the hardness test, then comes the tensile, then comes the impact. Okay, then what are the factors that affects the mechanical test? What are the types of mechanical test we have?
Hello.
And description of the data, and also the other mechanical tests that we
இல்லை கரெக்டாக
commonly
வந்துருக்கு
use in the
அது வந்துருக்கு
industries.
அவங்க 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 ஃபேஸ் வரணும் பார்த்துப்போம்.
So, see, if you see, if you see in the new product development stage, we will be getting some drawings with conventional materials, and also some of the drawings are new requirements with some new material grades. In that case, when we get some new material grade at the time of development, which has not been developed so far in the organization, like in that case we will be studying in depth in depth the mechanical properties of the material, so that to ensure whether the final product that goes to the customer meets the requirement, and also to ensure that in the process if there's any failure that happens, which I will cover in the future slides. So the basic requirement is the mechanical testing. Then comes the metallurgy, the microstructure, and other things. From the mechanical, you can arrive at certain conclusions on how the material is behaving. Okay. Then once the material has been developed, when you are productionizing in the regular production, there's one thing called as incoming inspection in the in if you see in any industry, we have incoming inspection. So in the incoming inspection, especially in the raw material, if you see the raw material, once the raw material is input is good, naturally the output of the product quality will be better. So that is where in all the industries we institute incoming raw material quality inspection. First of all, yeah, what we do is in industry, before procuring the material for any raw material procurement, whether it is a hot roll bar, see, we in IP rings, we manufacture gears as well as the piston ring. So for gears, we procure the hot roll bar, whereas for piston rings, we import the material, raw steel wire drawn material from Hitachi or from Tokusen. So we import the material. We don't. The material is not locally available. So for when we import or when we procure the material, we need to give the purchase man some standards. So in the raw material stage, to the procurement officer, what we do is we derive the specification standards, and we give them in that standards right from the chemical composition, mechanical properties, and then metallurgical microstructure requirements, and whether the hot roll bar has to be in the rolled condition or whether it has to be in annealed condition. All the thing we detailedly we give the specification requirements, we spell out in the form of a standard, and then based against that standard, the material procurement officer will buy the material, and we in the incoming raw material quality check, what we do is, as against the standard, one thing is we will be getting along with the raw material the test certificates. See, generally the raw materials are procured for hot roll bars from the steel mill factories like Vardhaman, Arjas, Usha Martin, Bhushan, like that. So they give their tested report. Along with that, we verify with the standards, and we also do a second checking, and this is primarily required because if you see in any of the audit, the incoming raw material traceability is also one of the key factor. If you see in the gear or in the piston ring, the product has to be traced till the when there's any failure in the service condition, when there's any failure, when they see the product should have the codes and codes to relating to heat treatment, or relating to incoming raw material heat treatment code. See, from the steel mill, we'll be getting a heat treatment code, and that heat treatment code, heat number, from the batch number, we do give a small identification for the week, because it will be a 5-digit code, and we cannot engrave in the material, because the piston ring, if you see, I think everybody must be aware of the piston ring. The piston ring is very it's a circular, it's like a bangle, and you cannot engrave all the code. So we do give some month code or some traceability like that. And also if you see another thing, and one more thing, what the customer insists in this incoming raw material, to preserve the records for around 10 years past records, in or throughout the service of the product, lifetime of the product. Nowadays this is the expectations of the customer. Then the second one is heat treatment properties. If you see, all of them must be aware of case hardening, or any heat treatment properties like case hardening or nitriding or through hardening. In all the case, if you see the mechanical properties, especially the hardness checking is one of the main player, which will help us to quickly check whether it is meeting the requirements. So next one is in to check the welding properties, whether the addition and tensile is one of the key parameter which will help us in checking the welding properties. All this why we are doing is to prevent any failure that happen, that may happen during the service. And in the final product, see, if you see, generally we have a drawing requirement, and as against the drawing, for example, if you see in the piston ring they would have given, if you see that in the piston ring, the top piston ring is subjected to various, I think that is the most ring subjected to various chemical and corrosion effects. So the rings are generally surface treated. So it is what generally we do molybdenum coating or nitriding or chrome plating or PVD coating, which is the latest technique. And emerging for BS6, we one more low friction coating is the DLC coating. So these are the coatings, various coatings we do for the top piston rings. So in order to evaluate whether the final product is meeting these requirements, it is a must that we have to, in the drawing they mentioned the coating thickness and coating mechanical properties of the coating like hardness. It is mandatory to be spelled out in the drawing, and also the customer, we have to provide the test certificate to the customer. So nowadays it is becoming mandatory that without doing any mechanical testing, the product cannot go to the customer. Hello. Yeah. கேக்குதே. Hello, are you able to hear me?
Clear irukku madam, no problem.
Okay, because Vadivel is not able to hear. Can I proceed?
Yes ma'am, please proceed.
Yeah. So the various types of material testing, if you see, we have two types of material testing. We have destructive as well as non-destructive. In destructive testings, if you see the basic, what I told you is the hardness requirement. If you see in the hardness, there will be some indentation formed, which is again the customer will not accept. And tensile testing, of course, breaking, there will be a breakage in the sample specimen. And the impact test also, there will be a breakage. So all this falls under destructive testing. And some of the non-destructive testings are MPI, dye penetrant, eddy current, radiography. So non-destructive test, see, we in IP rings, we are manufacturing piston rings as well as differential transmission gears. For transmission gears, it is mandatory for us, because after heat treatment, if there is the transmission gears are usually low carbon steels, which are case hardened. And in the case hardening process, if there's any quench cracks or something, which has to be detected in the before dispatch to the customer. So MPI and eddy current is one of the facility which we have in-house. And also, if you see, we don't the heat treatment case hardening process is outsourced. We don't have the facility in-house. So when it comes back, there should not be any mix up of the soft parts as well as the hardened parts. So in that case, the eddy current is one player which will one tool which will detect, which will clearly spell out whether the part is soft part or hard part. So this is a mandatory requirement by the customer for before dispatching to the customer. These are all some of the mandatory tests which we have to do. Next is, what are the factors that affects? So one factor is chemical composition of the material. Like everybody knows that the chemistry plays a major role, and also the bonding, whether it is covalent bond, ionic bond, that also plays a major role in determining the mechanical property, and also the crystal structure. If you see the crystal structure, whether it is BCC or FCC, if you see as I told you, for differential gears, we procure the hot rolled bar from the steel mill Vardhaman. There, what we do is in the hot rolled condition, the microstructure will be ferrite and perlite. Once during the product formation or at the end of the product formation, once when you do case hardening, the microstructure from ferrite perlite gets converted into martensitic structure, which is a body centered BCT, or what we call as BCT, body centered tetrachronal. Then based on that microstructure also, there's a difference in the mechanical properties. And apart from that, the extrinsic factors are the sample geometry, sample preparation, and the machine equipment. Equipment, when I say, see, all the machines nowadays has to be calibrated before it is being, whether we are using a simple hardness test. Every day we do calibrate. At IP Rings, we have instituted a chart, and every day our operators or inspectors, whoever check, it's a standard practice. What we have done is they have to check with the masters, and also and see whether it is falling within the error limits. Only then after that they will be checking the product. So this is a mandatory requirement of the customers also. Nowadays, without this, the customer never accepts the equipment is in working condition. And also, once in a year, we do the calibration of the equipment with the help of the external NABL aggregated laboratories. Next, some of the types of mechanical testings are tensile test, hardness test, impact, creep, fatigue. I will touch upon only the tensile, hardness, and impact and fatigue, because creep it is for a high temperature products like titanium and titanium, like that. So we don't use generally in our industry or in our factory, we don't use. So I'll be touching mostly about the tensile, hardness. Mostly we will be using the hardness and the fatigue testing also. Okay. And apart from that, the other test, simple test, what we do in our factory, I'll be just sharing. Next, the theoretical part, like everybody knows about the theoretical part. Like see, tensile, when we talk about the tensile, the basic thing which come to our mind is the stress strain graph, and how the strain is measured with the help of a load cell, and the graph is plotted. There is a standard specimen requirement as per the ASTM or IS standard. So based on that, the specimen is prepared. So what are the properties that we can get from the tensile graphs is, one is the ultimate tensile strength, the ductility, elasticity, stiffness, malleability, and the modulus of resilience. Generally, in our manufacturing, in our standards, this property we mainly check for piston ring wire as well as the hot roll bar. For the hot roll bar, we are interested mostly about the ductility and the tensile strength. For piston ring also, we calculate the tensile strength, which I'll be explaining in the subsequent slides. So generally, we don't have this in-house facility for checking the hot roll bar. We do outsource the material for checking the hot roll bar. See, this is the dimensions. This is the standard dimensions, and from the IS standard, we will be knowing what is the gauge length and other things, diameter. This for the flat, and this for the round specimen. So these are all standards which are available, and we have to make the specimen as per this standard. And one more thing is, generally, if you see the specimen, what as I told you, in the hot roll bar, the microstructure will be ferrite and pearlite. But the final product, what we are dispatching, will be the case hardened product. So generally, when we are producing this sample test specimens, it has also it is also mandatory. The specimen has to undergo some hardening treatment so that we check we get the value what is defined in our standards. So this is I think this is all the theoretical part. If you see, this is a standard stress strain diagram, and in the cold forming application, see, we manufacture differential gears where the cold forming, this elastic region and the plastic region is the most important for cold forming application. See, in the elastic region, we cannot do anything. So we have to go beyond the yield point for permanent deformation. So it is mandatory, or we know the yield point as well as the plastic deformation zone and the fracture point, because when we are cold forming in the presses, we should know to what extent we have to give the force. Otherwise, the force should not reach near this ultimate tensile strength, or it should not be in the below the yield point. Otherwise, the product there will not be sufficient filling and other things. So that's the reason we need for differential gear application, the tensile strength checking is mandatory. Next, this is some of graphs which I have shared. How for the brittle graph, brittle material, how the graph looks like. Especially we in Hyperings, we have most of our if you see in any commercial vehicles or in any passenger cars, in the automobile engine, we have a 3-cylinder or 4-cylinder, and in that we have 3 rings: top ring, second ring, and the oil ring. Top ring is always steel, second ring will be mostly cast iron rings. So cast iron rings are very brittle. That is the reason I have just shared. And we do also check the tensile strength of the cast iron and modulus of elasticity of the cast iron. These are all some of the basic requirements. If you see from the fracture, we will also be knowing whether it is a brittle fracture. From the tensile specimen fracture, we will be able to know whether it is brittle or whether it is ductile. And apart from the ductile and brittle, we have other fractures also: fatigue fracture or creep fracture, or fracture due to corrosion also. If you see in fatigue fracture, there will be beach marks. If you see in the ductile fracture, there will be a cup and cone type of uh, um, uh, display in that in the fracture. So these are from the fracture study itself, we will know whether the material has failed due to ductile or due to brittle. And also, if you see and also if here I have shared the stress strain diagram of high carbon steel, medium carbon steel, and low carbon steel. Mostly we are using low carbon steel, uh, and low carbon steel will be less brittle, more ductile when compared to the high carbon steel, because of the higher percentage of the carbon. And this is the standard tensile strength formula, yield strength formula, which I think everybody will be aware of. This I've taken from the net. See, this tensile, if you see this 14 point, I told you during my start of my lecture itself, we will be preparing some standards, and we will be standard specification, and we'll be sharing to our procurement officer for procuring the material. So in this, from the standard specification, I have taken the 14th one is mechanical properties. This is for the material 16 MnCr5, where the ultimate tensile strength is 780 to 1080, elongation, and the impact. See, one more thing is why these 3 parameters alone is we have mentioned is: one, this ultimate and elongation percentage reveals the ductility of the material, which is most important for when we are doing for cold forming application. And the impact, see, generally in the differential gas, the impact load will be more. So we have to evaluate the impact of the materials, uh, whether it is meeting the requirement, or in order to prevent any service failures. So this is a mandatory check. We don't have the facility, in-house facility, for as far as for checking the tensile strength of the hot rolled bar. This we outsource it at external lab like Micro Lab or Omega or Chennai Metco. Hello. This we will be checking at external lab like Omega or Micro Lab or Metex Lab, or even SGS. Next one is this is a case study. See, generally this I have taken from the coal forming division. See, we manufacture a product called as rotor shaft, which is going for a pump manufacturing, pump assembly in the pump. This our customer is a Standardine US customer, US based customer, and material is a nitroalloy material which has very high aluminum, nickel, as well as the chromium content. The material standards in the incoming stage specified by the customer is only the hardness. They told the microstructure should be 98% sphedization, and the hardness should be uh, around 98 HRB. And this is one of the nitralloy which most of the steel mills doesn't has not developed. And and in the rotor pump, rotor shaft, if you see, there are a lot of micro drillings. So to make the micro drillings happen, what we do is in this nitroli, we have also treated with some lead. So lead will which helps in machining activity. So if you see, whenever we receive from batch to batch, there is a lot of variation. This steel was supplied by RL Steels, and if you see, the steel is leaded steel, and on top of it, it has to be spread as annealed. The heat treatment cycle, it'll run. If you see in the steel mill, they have the facility of heat treating around 3 meters length bar, such a big furnace. And when you see the when you go for a smaller furnace, the uniformity will better when compared to the bigger furnace. So what happened is, we used to get batch to batch variation in hardness, as well as batch to batch variation in the crack percentage. This particular material, it is directly cold formed. There is no hot forming application in this. So what we do is, we cut a billet of length around 300 millimeters, and then we keep it and then we forge it at the top head portion alone. So in that case, when you see in one lot, it will be the crack will be very much less than the 5%, and in few lots it will be 14%, or even we have seen as high as 20% also. So when we made some study, tensile strength study from batch to batch, we found for this material particularly, if you see when the microstructure is 95% spreadization, there will be the yield strength. There is a large difference between the yield strength as well as the ultimate tensile strength. When the microstructure, there is some heterogeneity in the microstructure, we found that the yield strength and the ultimate tensile strength are close almost, there is some 100 MPa difference, and that's the reason we found frequent cracking. Then we introduced this yield strength as one of the criteria. Okay, so if you see the sample, if we made a study throughout the bar also, and we could see there is a lot of difference, heterogeneity, this which we have communicated, and we got it finally rectified in the microstructure as well as in the mechanical properties. And also we could achieve the we could manufacture the product less than 5% crack. Next, this is the I told you we have a piston ring division where we procure the steel wire from. I mean, we import the steel wire from Hitachi or Tokusen. So this is a electronic tensometer which has maximum 2000 kg. And here, see, this is the steel coils what we receive, and from this steel coils we take 150 sample, and we fix it in between, and we pull it. So as usual, we get a stress strain diagram, or we can also manually calculate the tensile strength. At one point it will break, and the point at which breaks, we know the load apply, and the ring. If you see the piston ring, I have shared in the next slide the test certificate of the Hitachi mill, Hitachi. So if you see the here they have mentioned the size of the wire, some 2.5 into some 1.5, like that. So this will be the area of the cross section, area of the wire. And if you see the tensile strength, they have checked up to it reads around 1400 something. If you the specification what we have mentioned is 1200 Newton per millimeter square is the minimum required. So this is how we get the test certificate for each and every incoming raw material, whether it is steel mill or steel wire, or whether it is a hot roll bar. This is a mandatory requirement, and in any customer audits, first they see, they check, they see these test certificates applied by the steel mill, and only then after that only they see our verified results. Then they correlate, and they also, there should not be a huge difference between the supplier as well as the our testing also. So these are all some of the requirements of the customer, and raw material, as you know, it is becoming day to day, it is becoming very stringent. The requirement is becoming very stringent, and we are supposed to share the raw material test report till the warranty period or something like that. And now it is becoming one of the customer specific requirement. Some of the customer insists that we should till the project till the programs runs like for 10 years or 15 years like that. Now I told you that in the piston ring, the second ring is the cast iron. And if you see this cast iron for checking the tensile strength of the cast iron piston ring blank, this is a tailor-made equipment. This is a very old equipment which our parent company India Pistons have got. Here we hang the piston ring loosely, and here if you see he'll be applying the load, and from the braking load, and these are some of the parameters like close diameter, width, radial thickness, tangential load, close gap. These are the some of the mandatory parameters of the piston ring, critical parameters of the piston ring. So from this we calculate tensile strength as well as the En value, which is a requirement of the material. See in the if you see in the bottommost here we have mentioned IP40. If you take this IP40 standards, what it would have given us the chemical composition, hardness, as well as the En value and the tensile strength. So from the tensile strength, we can also calculate a bending strength, which is the formula for calculating the bending strength is 2.16 into the 2.16 times of the tensile strength. This is the standard formula. This is for rectangular sections. Next is the hardness test of the hardness test, which is very simple and very easy to detect any issues in our heat treatment or any issues in the raw material. In the incoming material inspection also, whether it is a hot roll bar or a steel wire, it's a mandatory to check the hardness. Why it is mandatory? For piston ring, if you see what wires we get, subsequently it has to be coiled. So if the hardness is not as per the requirement or as per the specification what we have mentioned in the standard, what will happen in the subsequent coiling process, it may break, and that's a mandatory requirement. We have to check this piston ring material for hardness as well as the tensile strength. As far as the hot rolled bar is concerned, the hardness will be around. I mean, that is also a basic requirement. Here we are doing the next process will be the billet sawing. So up to 260. Generally, 260 will be the maximum. 260 BHN is the maximum of the hot rolled bar hardness. What will be getting in the incoming. So this is sufficient for sawing process. If once if it goes more than 300 or something, then the sawing process becomes difficulty. So some of the standard hardness, what we are aware, macro, micro, and nano hardness. Now I told you that some of the coatings, lower friction coating for BS6 application, one of the most important coating is the DLC coating, what we called as diamond like carbon coating. There this nano hardness where we do is for only for thin coatings less than 5 micron or something like that. We go for nano hardness testing, and we don't have this facility at present, in-house facility. We outsource it to Induston at Thiruvananthapuram. We have a external checking source at Thiruvananthapuram where they support us for checking the nano hardness. Then this micro harness, either we use the Noop or as well as the Vickers for checking the micro harness. Macro, generally the BHN or Rockwell harness, this we use for macro level testing. Particularly for Brinell will give the macro level indication of the hardness. Then we go for Vickers if required, then the Rockwell. See, it is the simplest technique, and which does not require any skilled operator. This is a mandatory technique for after heat treatment. In case if we find any uh, deviation in the hardness, with the help of this simple Rockwell harness, we do 100% segregation also, and sometimes the customer insists on 100% inspection of the final product before dispatching it to it. So this is some of the Brinell harness testers which are available in the market. This is made of crystal make. Now, if you see, we have fully automatic, which it is around 10 lakhs. And olden days, in those days, we don't have the fully automatic automatic Brinell harness tester. What we do is we take the indentation and subsequently we have to use a microscope measure and we have to compare it with the chart. Now it is not like that. You have everything available in the displayed in the screen, and it directly gives the reading. So this is the formula what we use this is applicable both for ferrous and non-ferrous. So generally, if you see for ferrous, it is we use the load 250, 750 as well as 3000 kg, whereas for non-ferrous we use 500 to 1500 kg. So Brinell harness, the number is indicated by the abbreviation BHN or HB. HB also you can write for Brinell harness, that is indicated in the drawings and other things. So if you see for basic requirement for ferrous material, the load by D square, that should be 30. It should be 30, only then we can use. So we have to select the indenter accordingly. So generally 10 mm ball, 2.5 or 5 mm ball. This is the standard balls which we use for checking the Brinell harness test, Brinell for measuring the harness requirement. So generally, if you see all the heat treated parts, see in our differential gear manufacturing, in between process, that like prior to the cold forming application, the material has to be softened. So for that we subject the parts to the annealing, heat treatment process called as annealing process. In that, if you see the basic thing is we heat to a certain temperature and then cool it in the furnace, so as to soften the material. So for all the soft materials we check basically using this Brinell harness tester. It will be right available next to the close by to the furnace. It is a shop equipment where we can train the operators and we can make them check daily to check the in process product quality. This equipment is basically used. Next, advantages, as I told you, this is a quick run, and the imperfection will be bigger when we use 3000 kgs and all. And if you see this Brinell test, we generally don't use for the case handed material, and of course this is now it is viable for checking. Even external lab checks this Brinell harness, where external lab like Microlab and other thing, they are also capable of checking this. They cost around some 1000 to 2000 rupees they charge. We have the in-house facility. This in-house facility we use for checking the annealed softened part, which I told you it is one of the process requirement for manufacturing the gear parts. Next comes the Rockwell harness tester. It is as a the picture here itself is self-explanatory. First, we apply a minor load. In the minor load, we have two different types of minor load: 10 kg and 3 kg. If it is 10 kg, it is ordinary Rockwell harness. If it is 3 kg, we call it as a superficial Rockwell harness tester. And we have a load 60 kg, 100 kg, like that. We have 100 kg and 150 kg for Rockwell. And for superficial, the minor load is 3 kg and we can use 15 to 30, 45 kg. Mostly this Rockwell, it is used for testing the final product or annealed parts. Also you can check where the surface area is very small. And where we cannot use the Brinell harness, we can use the Rockwell harness there as a tool for checking. And for the superficial harness, generally we check for the piston ring steel wires. Steel wires is a requirement. Either they give in HRC or they give in superficial harness like HR 15 for 30 45. Here also you have N scale and T scale. If you are using the diamond indenter, it is the N scale, and if you are using the ball indenter 1/16 inch ball, it is called the T scale. So there are many application, more than 30 different scales are available. With this combination of loads we can use. We can also check both ferrous and non-ferrous in this using the Rockwell harness tester. This again repeated. The slide is repeated. So this Rockwell nowadays. Earlier we have a manual type of checking the Rockwell harness, where even the manual type, the dial gauge will give directly whether it is HRC or HRB. That is in the B scale or C scale or A scale. The dial gauge will directly give. Now we have more sophisticated equipments where we get digitally the reading. We get in 0.5, 74.5 or 80.5 or 80.1. We get the in decimals. Now it is possible. We have in Hyperings we have one digital Rockwell harness tester. And as I told you, the indenter is diamond. This the main thing in this Rockwell harness is the tip. Tip has to be always 120 degree. Otherwise you will get if this tip gets damaged, and it has to be frequently, the tip has to be frequently verified for if there's any damage or not. Otherwise it gives the erratic reading. So generally we train the operators in all our the SOPs. We make it a point that the tip is always checked at a frequency, and it has been noted by our so that if there's any damage or such things, we can replace at a periodical thing. Then one of the most important of this Rockwell, as I told you, for differential gears, we do heat treatment case hardening process. Supposing if there's any issue or in through hardening process, I told you in the rotor shaft, some of the rotor shaft is also through hardened. In the through hardened process, if there's any issue in the heat treatment process, this is one of the tool where we can segregate the material 100%. And we have done this basically say, in one or two cases. Mostly this doesn't happen. Always we have a check at the supplier end, as well as internal sampling process. In case of any issues, what we do is we go for 100% check. And of course this diamond indenter, the depth of penetration is small. So with the concurrence of the customer, because it'll be seen as a dot on the thing on the product. So if he accepts, we do sometimes 100% inspection, and then we send across the products. And if you see this heat treated products for case hardening products, where case carburized products, what we do, see, if you see, depending on the product, differential gear module and other things requirement, customer, they do either shallow case hardening or case carburizing, or they do case carburizing up to, there are various product specification, that is 0.2 to 0.4 millimeter case depth, or something like 0.6 to 1.1, or sometimes for bigger gears we go up to more than 1 to 1.4. For piston pin application also, for crank pin, for piston pin it is 0.8 to 9. For crank pin, some of the applications we go up to 1.4 millimeter. So in that case, for shallow case depth, the standard handbook recommends to use HRA scale, whereas for higher case depth, the standard recommends to use HRC. That is a requirement. So this is a simple, as I told you, there's no skilled operator is required. and the entire operation completes in few seconds, and we can do 100% inspection also by using this Rockwell hardness tester. Next comes the micro Vickers. Micro Vickers, in this we have in Hyperings we have two micro Vickers. One is 10 kg to uh, 10 grams to 10 kg, and another one is from 2 grams to 2 kg. These are the two hardness testers what we have. Generally, this micro Vickers hardness, if you see, it is we in Hyperings we are doing many surface treatment products. Like as I told you, the top ring is the one which is subjected to very high temperature and corrosion. So generally, the piston ring, the top ring is subjected to any surface treatment like molybdenum or gas nitriding or PVD coating or DLC, which is the latest technique. PVD nitrated DLC also is available. Combination of any two coating is also possible, or chrome plating. These are some of the surface engineering which we have in-house facility, and in our incoming inspection, it is becoming mandatory. It is also a mandatory for us to check in our incoming process. So this is a photograph of our lab equipment, and here on the right side I have shown this. In generally we don't use Noop, but in our for our product, whether it is piston ring or differential gears, for both the thing we use mostly because we don't use Noop. Uh, this was basically the indenter, only the indenter difference. So application wise, I told you it is used for evaluating. See, when you do some case hardening process to the depth, for piston ring application, I told you we are doing nitriding. For differential gears, we are doing case hardening. And some of the parts we do through harden also, or induction hardening also. Some of the synchrocone products, what we are manufacturing, it is being induction hardened. So to what depth the carbon has been diffused, that we can get by this uh, Vickers hardness testing. What we do is we prepare a mold specimen and we take the indentation from the surface up to up to a depth, and there is a cutoff for differential gears. If you see, for case hardened parts it is 50 HRC, whereas for nitrated parts it is somewhere around 700 HV. That is the cutoff. So we calculate to what extent the effective case depth with the help of this micro Vickers tester. And also, if you see in the GIST standard evaluation of decarb, one thing is you can just section the product, and you can prepare the metallographic specimen and check the microstructure. With the help of microstructure, we will be able to evaluate the decarb. But if sometimes there is a partial decarb or something like that, what we call as traverse method, there's one thing called as traverse method. We do indentation from the surface from here up to this depth and in the core. So up to when there's a hardness difference between the core and the surface, up to what extent? To that extent, the decarb has happened. So that is one way of correcting our furnace and or something. Periodically, we subject. We have an annealing furnace, and periodically we do this decarb evaluation for correcting the furnace. Also, if there's any leakages or anything, this will indirectly tell us. Then this is bond strength. Just now you just see the pictures, but I have a case study which I'll explain at the end of the session. See, in this bond strength, this is the substrate material and this is the coating. In between there's a thin line which is which is pure chromium coating. So we if you put an indentation, there should not be any crack running like this. If there is a crack, the bond is not intact, which we call it as boundary crack. And the see, basically in any coating, surface engineering, other than case hardening and nitriding, all the bonds are only mechanical. There's no metallurgical bonds other than case hardening and nitriding. Only in case hardening and nitriding we have a metallurgical bond. Whereas in molybdenum or chromium plating or in PVD coating, this is a photograph. What I have showed you is a PVD coated piston ring. This is a PVD coated PVD coating coating material, and this is a substrate. This we use as a tool for evaluating the bond strength. Next, as I told you, in the incoming process, if you see in our control plans, what we give for manufacturing, in the after coating, it is mandatory for us to check the hardness and the depth of the coating. So we use micro Vickers hardness testers for evaluating for doing such inspections. So this is a chromium plated ring. This is the all over chromium plated ring. The minimum requirement for what we do is the hard chrome plating, and the minimum requirement of the coating is 800 HV. And this is a PVD coated where we have where it is magnified and showed. The requirement of this coating is 1200 to 1400 HV, and of course the moly coating, which is phasing out slowly, it is 300 to 550 HV. So next is the impact. As I told you, in for the product what we are manufacturing for the differential gears, the impact is very much requirement, because the end product, what the transmission gears are subjected to very high load. So in that case, the raw material, incoming raw material, what we do is we subject it to some heat treatment, through some blank heat treatment, and then we check the material. Here also I have many examples. If you see, the impact strength will vary from oil to oil. We have made many studies. In the heat treatment, if you see, each supplier will have his own oils developed by him. So in some of the some of the oils where we won't be getting this. Supposing if we go for salt bath, if the impact will be slightly lower when compared to the oil what we are using. So by this way we can judge where we have to use the salt, or where we have to use the oil, or how to improve the mechanical properties in the salt. In that case, what we will doing is we will be slightly tinkering the hardenability elements like molybdenum or chromium or manganese to achieve the property that is required in oil. Why generally? See, generally all our differential gears are heat treated in salt bath. Why we do is basically for to control the distortion. All the new requirements, or what we get is the distortion should be less than 40 microns or so. So in order to cater this, we have no other option other than going to salt bath quenching. So in that case, when we have to meet the requirements, salt bath quenching, if you see, I don't know whether how many of you all are aware of the heat treatment. So generally they do case hardening process at 930. There's an activation process, diffusion process, and subsequently they drop it to hardening temperature around 850, and then and from there they quench it. So the quenching temperature in salt bath, if you see, it is always 200 degrees Celsius. Whereas in oils, we have mark quenching oils up to 150 degrees Celsius. And hot oil we can also do in cold oil, but basically distortion is one thing we need to take care. So that's the reason we are going for either hot oil or for salt. So in that case, all our raw materials. So as you know, impact, it is nothing but the toughness. It is the ability of the material to absorb energy without any failure. Many of you all would have heard of the great Titanic story. In that, how the ship broke into two. So impact while developing the material, impact test has become one of the important. From then onwards only they have started checking the impact in the sub-zero condition also. Why sub-zero? Some of the steels, what happens is it becomes brittle. It becomes like a glass, and when it hits the ice or something, it develops a crack. So that is the reason now whenever we do the impact strength, we have to mention the temperature. We do not have the facility, and our parent company has got the facility of checking this impact strength. We are also outsourcing to some labs like Microlab or Metex or Omega Lab, which is available in Chennai. So these are the sample specimen how we prepare. In this, we have two types, IZOD or Charpy. Generally, in our standards itself, in the standard specification sheet which we are releasing to the procurement officer itself, we mention what is the requirement. If you see in the previous slide, I would have showed it is IZOD. So that is a requirement in the slide which I showed you earlier, which I shared. I would have showed you the requirement was IZOD. So some of the GIS material like SEM 420, the requirement is Sharpie. In this also you have U notch and V notch. So this is the mandatory requirement for to see that the product does not fail in the service. So these are the procedures, some of the procedures, how it is being operated. This is what I have explained. Next comes the functional test. See, so far I have covered the mechanical strength, mechanical properties. Apart from this, some of the test for piston ring application, if you see some of the test, which you call test function test, we use is the scuffing, wear, separation resistance, corrosive, heat resistance, and permanent deformation, braking resistance, bending strength, fatigue strength. This I will cover this fatigue strength. Other tests, I think mostly it will not cover in the mechanical testing, but this fatigue test it will cover under mechanical testing, which I have showed in the next. This I have a case study which I'll show. See, this when we change over when there's a phase change from BS4 to BS6, we had to supply to Tata Motors for a engine application. So at that time, when it was in the BS4 stage, the ring width was around ring thickness was around 2 mm, and when it changed over to BS6 phase, the designer has suggested for 1 mm. That's the design of the customer, and it has been reduced to 1 mm. So, but there was no changes in the process. What happened is in the during the test, and it has been developed and it has been sent to the customer for testing. During testing or out of some 20 engine testing, we find that some few parts, like a few engine sets, the top ring broke and it failed. So when we made a deeper analysis, what happened to this? Why such failure is happening only in this BS6 when compared to this BS4? Then we came to know that in BS6 application, the thickness is reduced, but the pattern, see, generally we do gas nitriding process. We call it as a pattern or a recipe, but the recipe earlier it was 84 microns, that remained the same. And also our we have a collaboration with Nippon Piston Rings Japan, and our collaborator what he is recommending is this is the cross section of the piston ring. This is the nitrated layer, on the top of it is PVD coated. If you see in the corners, what our collaborator recommending is the GN depth should be as minimal as possible. What he is recommending, it has to be less than 50 microns or something, close to around 50. So if you see the previous slide, with the nitriding depth, the fatigue lives also, fatigue failure also happens. See, this pink is it is around 90 microns depth coated piston, diffused piston ring, where we are seeing it is not meeting the required fatigue cycle time. Whereas when we reduce the diffusion or coating, diffused thickness, nitrated thickness, to around 30 or something, it is meeting the requirements. So what we did is we introduced in the corner, there is an operation, we reduced the cycle time, the diffusion time from 7.5 hours to 4 hours. And also we made the one additional process, what we called as cup grinding. What we did is we removed from the corners the some of the nitrated portion, and then after that we coated. Subsequently, we sent this parts for fatigue testing. We don't have the facility at IPNIX. We are dependent on our collaborator, and this see there is a improvement of 100 MPa, and this was an eye opening for us. And see, as we are changing, moving to BS6, there is a stringent dynamic clearance and all has been reduced, and uh, naturally we have to make any process change, unless and otherwise we will not be able to achieve the requirement of the customer. So we made this improvement, we presented this slide to the customer, and of course after that and now the product is running successfully, there is no issue. And the customer is also very much happy about it. So what happened is, if there is higher GN depth, the brittleness is more. When we have reduced the GN depth, we have improved certain ductility, we have given some ductility to the material, and that is enough. See, for engine generally, if you see in this nitriding does not play a major, the periphery, the PVD alone plays major. This will be in contact with the mating liner cylinder. So naturally, if it runs lakhs and lakhs of kilometers, the wear, this is a PVD very hard coating, 1200 to 1400 HV. The wear will be around 5 to 6 microns. So till the end of the life also, maybe it will not be reaching this nitrated layer. Nitrated layer, why we are giving it's a supporting layer. In case if there's any flake off or chip off, this nitrating layer will support this throughout the cycle. So that is the reason we do a nitrating. Then we learned that for GN nitrating, for GN PVD, the nitrating depth, what is the requirement is something less than 30 microns. From then onwards, we have changed our product drawings, and we have recommended whenever there's a GN PVD, it has to be less than 30 microns. And other test, what we use for checking the addition. So one I told is the bond test in my earlier slides, where we are putting an indentation, micro Vickers indentation in 200 kgs and 300 kgs at the interface of the coating as well as the substrate, and checking whether there is a crack. So similar way, what we have is called, what we call it as a scratch test. The scratch test is nothing but a diamonded indenter. This facility also we don't have in house, but it can be outsourced. It can be outsourced, and this famous test, what Germans called as Reve test. This is the Reve test, what they called us, and this has been checked by our collaborator. See, I have one more case study for explaining this scratch test also. In one of our projects, it's a Volkswagen project. What happened is, we did a conventional PVD, that is nitrated PVD with chromium undercoat, and with iron 14A PVD, that is chromium nitride PVD, what we called as chromium nitride PVD, which is of the hardness 1200 to 1400 HV. In that case, then we manufactured the product, and we see when there's a phase changer, that is also for BS6 application. We struggled a lot, we learned a lot also in this during our journey. So what happened is, initially when we gave this product, what happened is, they also subjected to test called Fresh test, Bruce test, which is 33. Fresh test is 33 hours, 32 hours, and Bruce test is for 400 hours testing, engine testing. There we could find some flake up of PVD. That means the addition is not intact. So we then when we subsequently analyze the product, what we found is, this particular chromium interlayer, it was not supporting. It was not supporting, and what we did is, what our collaborator recommended is, we have to change, instead of this chromium interlayer, we changed one more middle layer, what we called as chromium nitride middle layer. And here the addition claims to be better when compared to the chromium interlayer. The soft chromium nitride middle layer, The addition is very much intact, and it has and it and the scratch resistance also is much more better when compared to the ordinary iron 14A chromium. This is the iron 14A chromium in undercoat, and this is the middle layer, what we call as chromium nitride. It is nothing but a chromium nitride, but it will be in a different stoichiometry. So what we did is subsequently we modified the process, PVD process, all our PVD recipe we changed from undercoat to middle layer, and then we have we have processed few products, and this was again evaluated. See, the customer does not directly, he didn't accept for testing. What we did is we gave to our customer uh, this the customer has again once again validated the product, and once he is very confident of the product, only he will be taking, because the engine testing, as you all know, it is very costly process. So in order to minimize the time and as well as the uh, cost, what we do is these are some of the product validation which is required, basic validation which is required for giving confidence to the customer that the product will not fail. Now the product, I think this week they would have taken for testing, and results are yet to be disclosed. So this is one of the mandatory crash tests for addition. This we do not have in-house facility, but we can outsource it at we have an Industron uh, R&D center at Tirunananthapuram, where they help us to check this type of testings and all. So one more test is the twist fatigue test. See, since we do not have this in-house facility, what we do is, as I told you, we are doing some mechanical bonded coatings like chromium plating, PVD coating, as well as molybdenum coating, which is phasing out now. See, all this coating, whether it is intact or not, we have to validate once in a while, once in a year. So what we did, since we do not have this scratch test facility, what we do is we converted this darted QTM machine into a twist fatigue. We call it as twist fatigue, and here we one part of the twist fatigue will be stationary, other this will be moving, and this we call it as a stroke length. This will be moving vibrating at a frequency of one hertz, 1 or 1.1 hertz, and in that we will be checking. This is one of the product which we recently, I told you, which they have taken for testing. So this is these products were subjected to this testing. See, this I told you, initially when it broke, that at that time the nitrating depth was very high, as well as the ring, because of the higher nitrating depth, because of the brittleness, it broke. Subsequently, what we did is we changed the diffusion pattern, and we have reduced the diffusion time from 7.5 hours to 4 hours, and then we checked the twist fatigue. There was no coating peel off, as well as there was no breakage, and uh, this is a minimum cycle requirement, but we want to know what is happening up to 50,000. This is a customer requirement. We want to know whether it is failing when we extend the cycle. So for this, we subjected up to 50,000, and we couldn't find any peel off. And the tested rings, after passing through test fatigue only, which we send to the customer for scratch test evaluation, and it has passed in the scratch test evaluation also. These are some of the simple tests to see that the product is not failing during the service. So I think this is the last slide. So with this, I end my session. I hope I have shared my experience, and hope it was okay for you all. I don't know to what extent I was able to present it to you. Vadivel sir, over to you now.
Yes, madam. I'm Sridhar
Yeah, sir.
speaking. I wish to thank you on behalf of our management and Department of Mechanical Engineering. Thank you very much, madam, for your wonderful session today. Thank you, madam, for sharing those industrial applications, case studies, and procedures related to mechanical testing. I'm sure all the participants would have realized the importance of mechanical testing in manufacturing industries. The session was very useful and informative. I hope the participant would be exploring more in the future. Now I request all the participants to post their questions in the chat box. I would read it up to the presenter so we can have a discussion. Participants, kindly ask your questions in the chat box. Audible, sir? Am I audible?
Sir, you are audible. Yes, sir, you are audible. Mr. Sunil Kumar sir, since it is a industrial oriented presentation, so it's we are sorry that we cannot share the PPT with participants. Just you should note down the key points which was given by our presenter.
Sir, most of the data what we have shared is confidential. Although
Yes.
that's the reason we don't want to share this presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. There are a few questions in the chat box. The first question is by Tamil Kumaran. What is the thickness of the specimen for hardness test like Rockwell Brinell?
Sir, it is given in the ASTM standard itself. If it is for Brinell, it should be minimum 20 millimeter thickness because the depth of penetration will be higher. If it is Rockwell, if it is sufficient that if you have even 0.5 or 0.5 millimeter, it is sufficient. You can get it checked because you have various loads like 60, 100, and 150. You can alter, and there's a in the mechanical testing. Edition 8, volume 8, there's a page which talks about the thickness of the thickness of the specimen and what is the load you require. You can refer that book because I don't remember all those things. It is there in the handbook, mechanical testing handbook. I can share the handbook if required.
Yes, ma'am. Next question. Mr. Suresh asks regarding hardness testing, how to classify materials, whether to go for Brinell, Vickers, or Rockwell testing method.
Sir, if it is soft, no. If you want a macro level, for example, I told you in the leaded steel, it was mandatory for us to check the hardness in Brinell because it covers a larger area. Brinell always covers a larger area. If you want a macro level, you have to go for Brinell. Then subsequently you can go for Rockwell. See, one particular thing about when I was talking about leaded nitrile alloy, the lead segregation will happen. So that is why what customer insisting, you have to mandatorily check in Brinell. So it all depends on whether you want what sort of requirement. Based on that, you can choose whether it is for Brinell or Rockwell. For most of the soft materials, we go for Brinell. For hard materials, we go for Rockwell, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. One more question.
Yes, sir.
Suresha has asked, may I know the recent work on polymer-based composite for piston ring applications?
Can you repeat, please, the question?
May I know the recent work on polymer-based composites for piston ring applications?
Sir, polymer based composites. What we do is, see, for some of the application, like Maruti has recently given some of the RFQ that on the width, see, in the top ring, the piston ring has been fixed in the piston. So in the groove, there should not be any scuffing between the piston ring as well as the aluminum silicon alloy what piston is made up of. So what we do is we do a resin type of coating, sir, which is newly emerged coating, resin type of coating, which even we are also new to that technique. I think the STT company is doing that resin coating on the width surface to prevent scuffing of the material during testing, during engine validation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hope, yeah.
One more question from Samraj.
Yes, sir.
He is asked, like, you have stated that you will coat the piston rings. Will the multi-coating react with rings or not?
See, coating piston multi-coating. See, if you take PVD, see, it is a part of the process that undercoat what I told pure chromium. See, in the process, in the recipe, we vary. We don't. I mean, we don't do multi-coating and all. See, in the recipe itself, we change the recipe so that we cut the nitrogen. So that when we cut the nitrogen, naturally the chromium nitride will not be formed. It will be forming only chromium. And on top of that, for certain time, for maybe for 30 minutes, then after that we allow the nitrogen to pass. See, and multi-layer, you cannot talk. See, if it's a nitrated PVD layer is not a multi-layer coating. See, this multi-layer, it is forming within the process. It is not something from two different processes what we are doing. It is so far what we have been doing is within the process only. Within the process, in the PVD furnace recipe, what we do is for certain period, for around 30 minutes initially, we don't pass the nitrogen, where a pure chromium layer will be formed. Then after that, we allow the nitrogen to pass. Then on top of it, a chromium nitride layer is will be formed. Hope I have clarified, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. One more last question for the session. How to measure micro hardness of a coating layer? Example, an anodized layer.
You can section it. You can prepare a metallography specimen and you can check, sir. It is basically micro because everything is you have to prepare the sample, metallographic sample, and then you can check. You can take the traverse from the surface to core.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, madam. Hope the participants got their questions answered. With this discussion, we would conclude today's session. I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to our speaker, Mrs. M. Malati, Senior Manager, R&D, India Piston Rings. I hope after this session, all the participants would look to apply the techniques discussed on mechanical testing with better understanding. Thank you once again, madam.
Thank you, sir. In fact, it's a learning session for me also to share my experience. I got on, and I thank Dr. Bala for this, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.